It's the KC Arts Beat Report. I'm Patrick Neas, and I am having quite the Gallic morning today, speaking to a wonderful French pianist who's going to be in Kansas City for a recital Friday, May 9th at 7 p.m. at the Folly Theater. This is a very, very special recital. The complete works of Maurice Ravel in one evening. And we're going to talk to the pianist here in just a second. But first, I want to ask you to please like and subscribe to KC Arts Beat on YouTube. And please follow us on Facebook, where every day we have all kinds of great information about the arts, not just in Kansas City, but around the world. We also acknowledge various artists' birthdays every day and bring to your attention great dates in history in the world of arts. So please check us out on Facebook. And right now, I'd like to say hello to a fantastic pianist whom I've admired for many years, Jean-Efflam Bavouzet. Hello, Jean-Efflam.
Hello, Patrick. That's very kind of you.
Oh, it's so great to speak to you. And I was not kidding when I say I have so many of your recordings. I know you record for the Chandos label, and you do so many different things. Ravel, Beethoven, Prokofiev, and lots of French music, of course. And you've recorded the complete works of Ravel, and you're going to do them all in one night here in Kansas City. I want to ask you about the importance of Ravel to you as a pianist, a French pianist especially.
Oh, it's crucial. It's probably some of the very first piece I've learned when I was, 14, 15, is Jeu d'eau, for example. But I must say it's very touching for me to speak about my experience with Ravel from where I am now, because I'm in my house in Normandy, but actually before me, the owner was my very dear teacher and mentor, Pierre Sancan, a wonderful pianist, musician, and actually a composer, Grand Prix de Rome of composition. By the way, I recorded all his, I've dedicated a CD to his works with the wonderful piano concerto and some other stuff, solo and his flute sonatine. And Sancan, as a composer, was in a way, not really avant-garde in the 60s. He wrote always tonal music, but he was very influenced by the refinesse and to push the tonality boundaries of that Ravel started about 40 years ago. And I can confess that I've never played Ravel, or for example, I played more than 120 times the G major Ravel concerto. And wow, believe me, every time I think about Pierre Sancan, he had such a wonderful way to teach something which is very subtle, because with Ravel, actually, the less you do, the more the music speaks. There are countless stories of Ravel telling to the musicians who were playing his music, don't do this, don't do this, it's not in the score, play the score just play the score, don't take personal initiatives. And some of the musicians said, but maître, we are not your slave. And Ravel said, "Oh, yes, you are." So but of course, when also he writes in his scores, for example, very expressive, très expressive. So you have to put of yourself in it. How do you want to be expressive if you play like a machine or a metronome? So it is a very fine line, because the if you do too much, the Ravel music loses its noblesse and its pudeur. I don't know how you translate that. Pudeur is it's not shy. It's when you don't want to show too much of yourself. Mm-hmm. As Ravel was as a person, and therefore. I have the feeling that Pierre Sancan really taught me from the very start on this good balance that you need to have between an incredible respect to the text and not doing too much, you see. But it's a music very touching by its in a way, by its simplicity. And yes, and you know, playing all Ravel in one concert seems enormous, like a marathon, but actually it's not that much of music. It's only yet, let's say, 2 intervals included, it's only 3 hours. You know, try the entire output of Ravel, everything he wrote is roughly the length of 3 Wagner operas. That's all.
Wow.
You see, so he is a giant in music for the quality of his music, but not for the quantity. Now he stands among the few composers where almost his entire oeuvre is played today in concert. And you cannot say that, you know, certainly not from Beethoven, certainly not from Mozart, certainly not from Liszt, and even from Chopin. We hear 20%, 30% of their compositions. But in Ravel, you almost hear them all.
And they're all so high quality too.
Exactly. He was for 2 reasons for that. First of all, he was extremely demanding on himself. If a piece didn't please him, he would just throw it away and burn it. You know, he let very few pieces published, and he was a very slow writer. You know, he wrote music with difficulties.
He's often lumped together in a lot of music lovers' minds, I think, with Debussy, but they're very different composers. Can you talk about the differences between Debussy and Ravel?
Patrick, this is one of my absolutely favorite subjects. They are incredibly different. Actually, they are almost opposed in terms. Now, we are not, I don't want to go in too much technical details for our listeners, but to summarize what I think are the main differences, Ravel is a classic composer. Ravel always refers to classical structure, Ravel always refer to classical harmonies, even if some of them are really, you know, juicy, spicy, and with a little bit of dissonance, but you can always analyze them based on the tonal system. While Debussy, despite what he said, is a complete revolutionary. Debussy almost never used any given pattern from given by the classical period, classical form. His harmonies sometimes defy any analyzing. You know, every piece needs a special key to open what is in the brain of the composer. There is a very, very good example how different their musical brain function. When they were asked to write, they were asked the same task, both of them, Ravel and Debussy, along with other composers, Vincent Dadi and Reynald Dohan. It was an anniversary year of Haydn, and as you probably know, the 5 letters of Haydn can be translated into a musical theme or subject of five notes. And both Ravel and Debussy wrote a piece on the name of Haydn. Now, guess what? Ravel wrote a beautiful ABA menuetto in G major, while Debussy wrote a kind of valse lente with 5. The piece is only 2 minutes long. I mean, both pieces are less than 2 minutes. And so Ravel is an ABA normal menuet, but Debussy succeed to have 5 different parts in very different tonalities, using the 5 motifs, 5 notes motif all over the keyboard as bass, as accompaniment, as motif. I mean, you know, and the piece is finished and you don't remember anything, only the fact that it was a beautiful piece. While in the minuet of Haydn, of Ravel, on the name of Haydn, you can still hum the melody. So, and that's another trademark of their music. You cannot hum anything from Debussy, but you can hum a lot of melodies from Ravel.
Uh-huh.
And also the two men admire each other. That's absolutely sure. Ravel even asked Prélude à l'après-midi d'un faune from Debussy to be played for his funeral.
Oh.
Yes. And Debussy orchestrated some of Ravel pieces, and Ravel orchestrated also some Debussy pieces. So actually, they recognized their immense talent, but they are also very different as person. Uh-huh. As I am currently reading all the letters Ravel wrote, and it's so touching to see. He's a lonely soul in a way. Ravel, lived a rather, I don't want to say sad, but in a way, yes, a sad life, definitely sad on the sentimental side of it, living all his life alone, surrounded by great friends, extremely faithful to his friends. While Debussy was probably a little bit more, I don't want to say pushy, but a little bit, really wanted to succeed and to have a status in the society, living always a little bit above his financial abilities, asking money all the time, and not being very kind to many people around him. If you ask me with whom I would love to spend a dinner with, no doubt it's Ravel, and it's not Debussy, although I admire his music, of course, nothing to do with it.
Right.
So they are very different. Sorry, that was a long,
no, very fascinating.
Answer.
No, that was...
And personally, what I always say, and I found it even more true, I feel French when I play Ravel.
Interesting. Wow.
I do not feel French. I don't feel French when I play Debussy. I feel musician. I play Debussy because of that's the result of really hard work. Uh-huh. But somehow the language of Ravel was always kind of natural to me.
What is particularly French, in your opinion, about Ravel's music?
Proportions. Uh-huh. Perfect proportions. Uh-huh. And never exaggerate anything. Look at the French garden. Look at the French architecture. Look at the French painting. It's always a question of beautiful proportions. Uh-huh. And extremely refined harmonies, but that is the sense of harmonies that is probably for the French musicians as a whole. Debussy, Saint-Saëns, Bizet, Gounod, Chabrier, Lalo, Magnard, they all have an incredible sense for harmonies. But in the case of Ravel, I really think it's the perfect proportions. Never too long, never too short, exactly how it should be.
Wow. And he seemed to have a great love and respect for the history of French music himself, with Le Tombeau de Couperin being a tribute to French music going all the way back to the Baroque era.
Yes, but that was something that Debussy did as well when he has an homage à Rameau and so on. Don't forget that they were living in a time of war. And they were living in a time where it was important to search what French is about and to dig into the French artistic roots. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they were also digging in the great old masters of the Baroque period.
Mm-hmm. With a lot of composers, you can sense an evolution in their style. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not that... when you listen to Ravel's music, you don't sense that same kind of evolution. Am I right or wrong about that?
Mm-hmm. That's exactly word for word what I wrote in my text in my CD.
Oh, well, maybe I stole it from that.
Because yes. Now let's continue the comparison with Debussy. The first Debussy is totally influenced by Wagner and Tchaikovsky, and then he writes almost like all composers, pseudo pseudo Wagner with a French touch. And then his friend Eric Satie shows him another way, another path. And then he realized, actually less is more. And so try to have a middle period. And then at the end, he explored very, very almost avant-garde music. In the case of Ravel, naturally, he grew as a craftsman, but you're right. From let's say jeu d'eau, then there is not there is not so much of an evolution in radical sense. Of course, he explored some aspects. I would say, especially technically, as a pianist, pushing the boundaries very, very far, and sometimes even trying to write the most difficult piece ever written of his time. I'm referring to Scarbo, or his left-hand concerto, or the Alborada del Grazioso, or Ondine, all these pieces which are incredibly difficult. And the paradox being that he was not a great pianist himself, actually far from being a good pianist. We have recordings of his playing. It's not good. Sorry to say. you can feel that this is not somebody who mastered the piano. He was unable to play his own concerto in G major, which is a wonderful piece, but it's not a technical challenge. He was not able to even play that. Now, ask me how a composer who cannot master the piano very well where did he found the imagination and the skills to write novelties, some new effects on the piano that nobody wrote before, even not Liszt or even Prokofiev, who were or Rachmaninoff. I'm speaking of the greatest pianist of music history, who were composers as well. Never thought of it, and Ravel, who never gave any piano recitals in his life, who never earned any money as a pianist because he was not good enough, invented some effects which are still today among the most well-written music ever in history, in music history. It's a miracle.
Speaking of that difficult piece, Scarbo, which is from Gaspard de la Nuit, is that what's it like playing a piece like that? I mean, how long did it take you to master that one?
I think any pianist of any abilities learning Scarbo is sweating for weeks, for months. I was lucky enough to learn that piece under the guidance of Pierre Sancan, whom I mentioned earlier, and who gave me from the very start some very good fingering, because there is a lot of acrobatic crossing hands, and which is part of the show, in brackets. It's part of the when the composer writes that the bass should be played with your right note, or the top note should be played with your left. This is an effect that you cannot erase, because otherwise you kill the gesture, the music gesture of it. But there are countless of hand position which are absolutely crucial in a piece that has to be played that fast. So to answer your question, I do remember vividly struggling learning it. And then the accumulation of performances, I am probably now close to 200 performances of that piece.
Wow.
I don't want to say I can play it in my sleep, but it's the accumulation of performances of thousands and thousands of hours. Yes, it's always a struggle to play, and it should be, because the piece is about a scary little devil, you know, so to speak. It should be scary, and if the pianist is too comfortable or doesn't take risks, the music pays the price, you know. So I would rather pay the price, let's say, to make a few wrong notes and have the adrenaline and the excitement rather than just playing comfortably. Now, and I must say, I've never felt either bored or tired with the music of Ravel. And even, as I said, after hundreds of performances, the challenge, the beauty, and yes, there is a demoniac aspect of that specific piece. You know, Ravel was a very short man, and a rather kind one, but I'm rather sure that inside him was he was hard like a rock or diamond, because otherwise, tell me how he could write such powerful music as Scarbo, Concerto for Left Hand, La Valse, Daphnis and Chloe. I mean, it's devastating, and such charge with passion, with erotism, with a struggle. With it's almost unbearable sometimes to handle and to listen to the music of Ravel when it's well played. I think it's devastating. So many times I cried when I heard a good performance of Daphnis or La Valse. Really.
Well, what a rare opportunity to hear someone who hasn't just worked up Gaspard de la Nuit for a concert, but actually has it in his heart, soul, and bones like you do.
But you see, what is interesting also when you hear the entire oeuvre is that you see connections with pieces, you know, and even some little gems like à la manière de, because he was a great imitator, Ravel, and some of his friends told him, you should write down some of these things. You imitate Borodin so well, you imitate Chabrier so well. So he did, and this little menuet on the name of Haydn. I mean, it's all one gem after another. But of course, you have the three big cycles: the Miroir, the Gaspard de la Nuit, and the Tombeau de Couperin you mentioned earlier, who are, you know, these three big pieces, about 23 minutes each cycle, that stands among like three piliers, you know, a pile on which the entire concert is structured. By the way, I play the piece in chronologic order, despite what you said that there is not such a big evolution. I thought it was interesting to hear from beginning to end. And it's a good ending because it ends with the flamboyant toccata of Tombeau de Couperin, which is, by the way, another technical challenge.
Oh, it sounds like it. Well, one final question, Jean-Efflam. Oh, and this is probably a stupid and question.
There is no stupid question. There is only stupid answers.
Okay. Do you have a favorite Ravel piece?
Actually, no. Every time I go off stage playing, let's say, the Ravel Left Hand or the G major or Gaspard or Tombeau, you know, that's what we are so lucky with, we musicians, that we put our hands daily in the ultimate mankind production masterpiece. You know, who can say that he or she can put his or her hands deep into what man has created, the most fascinating thing? You know, the music is indescribable. You know, you cannot say, is it emotions? Yes, but not only. It's also mathematics that you don't even realize you are calculating. It relates to time. We are time masters. So we can condensate time, we can extend time, we can do with time whatever we want. When I say we, is musicians with a big M, but of course the composers had planned them all. And in the case of Ravel, I cannot say I have a favorite piece, because even the piece, okay, let's say Serenade Grotesque, the very, very first piece he wrote, you cannot say honestly that's a masterpiece. No, but it's not bad at all. It has full of this irony and beating chords, and some of the effect he will use, Spanish effect, he will use later in his Spanish music. I'm referring to Alborada del Gracioso, for example. So it's full of life, full of energy, but also tenderness. I do not have a perfect piece. I'm okay. I'm thinking loud now. True enough that Le Gibet from Tombeau de Couperin, from the Gaspard de la Nuit, pardon, Le Gibet, the middle piece, which has a B flat repeated 127 times all the way through, is a composition challenge that I'm always in awe when I play. And there is it's a very quiet piece, very hypnotic piece. And you have this B flat, which represent the bell of a gallows. You know, this man is hanging on, and it's a terrible poems. Actually, it's really dark, but the ingenuity of having thought of one sound all the way through. Chapeau quand même, hein? Because you it's not boring, and that's the thing. It's not boring. Nothing happens, but it's not boring. So how do you succeed that? No?
Well, I think that could be said of this whole concert. It's not going to be boring.
I hope not.
No, it's going to be, I think it's going to be absolutely magical. The complete works of Ravel in one night, and no filler, because Ravel, everything he wrote was wonderful. So
Exactly.
you're going to enjoy it all. And that's going to happen on Friday, May 9th at the Folly Theater at 7 p.m. Jean-Efflam Bavouzet is being presented in Kansas City by the Friends of Chamber Music. So get your tickets at chambermusic.org. It has been just such a delight speaking to Jean-Efflam from his home in Brittany with a great, big, beautiful
Normandy,
Normandy, with a beautiful French tapestry behind him. It just, I feel so elevated today. So
thank you, Patrick. My dear pleasure. I cannot wait to play for you.
It's going to be wonderful. Thank you so much for taking
my dear pleasure.
And for sharing such fascinating insights and information. It was great to listen to you.
Thank you.
And you're listening to the KC Arts Beat Report. And please like us on YouTube, follow us, and please like us on Facebook as well. And until next time, I'm Patrick Neas.